or many terawatt hours. And we got a long way to go to get to many terawatt hours per year.
Dan? Let's go to Dan.
Thank you. Dan Levy, Barclays. I think we know competitive dynamics differ significantly by region. We know cost dynamics differ by region. We saw that with your China Gigafactory, far superior cost to what you had at Fremont. I realized it was a new factory, but there are clearly different dynamics. So to what extent are the cost strategies that you've laid out today, do they differ by region, or is there more of a global one-size-fits-all approach on reducing cost?
Yeah, I think we're pretty consistent on the strategy here. We'll try to as much localized as possible. Like in China, over 95% of our supply chain are localized, all the way from the first tier to the second tier, even to the third tier. And that gives us, generate a tremendous savings on COGS. We also have a very localized labor force. We have access to skilled labor force in the region, and Yangtze Delta region in Shanghai, I'm particularly referring to. Among over 30,000 of employees in China, we have probably less than 20 expats. So it's very deep localization we have done there to be able to have such cost structure, and we try to replicate this approach elsewhere in different gigafactories. Of course, supplier bases are different. The labor market are different, region by region and country by country. But we try our best to localize. Yeah, and I think that's absolutely give us an advantage to compete with the auto OEMs around the globe. Another thing is, we have this direct selling mode. Like Zach said, we save a tremendous money on OPEX as well. We have full control over all the expenditures across the company, and we don't spend money on marketing or advertising. Everything we saved will become the value we can offer to the consumers. So on that part, we also follow pretty consistent strategy over the years.
I mean, certainly the manufacturing stuff that Colin, Pete, and myself talked about, whether you make it here or you make it in Europe or you make it in Asia, it applies everywhere. We think about that from the ground up, not specific to any region.
Yeah, just one thing I would add to Tom's point about localization and to Lars's point here. But I would actually say that we're moving in a direction of more standardization in terms of our factories and our processes and our cost reduction approaches. So as we've been thinking about the next generation platform, we've been thinking about the volume that we aspire to build against that, how many individual factories do we need to build, and what is the fastest possible way to expand that footprint around the world. What we've done with Model Y is each factory is an incremental improvement of the previous factory, which requires engineering hours, engineering spend for each factory design, and then you end up with factories that are slightly different from each other. And as we move towards the next generation platform, I think the term you use, Lars, is copy-paste. So to get it right from the first time, certainly there will be things that we learn and we replicate and we make adjustments to, but try to have as much standardization and commonization as possible, which allows us to go as quickly as possible with expansion.
Overaka on this side.
Thanks. Two questions, one for Zach and one for Ashok. So for Zach, how do you think about the long-term growth and operating margins for the business? And when we look at 150 to 175 billion in CapEx, is the remaining balance of that, is that essentially the CapEx guidance through 2030? For Ashok, the multi-trip reconstruction that you highlighted, how is that different from what Mobileye does with the REM map that they have? And can you give us any color on the AP4 hardware?
So with respect to operating margins,